Easter Sunday, the resurrection, is not the center of our Christian faith. Good Friday is.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Fish for People. I'm Eric Heyer. This is Pastor Chris Gordon from Olivet Lutheran Church in Fargo. It's been a while.
Yes, good to get this back going again, and we'll get some more regular conversations about important stuff.
Well, and it is an important week for the church. It is Holy Week. We just got done with Palm Sunday. It was so much fun having the kids parading and all the great music that Marla's put together and the Celebrate Band.
It was remarkable all the way around. And the kids, both they're just crazy chaos and joy and everything with it. And the music, it was just, top notch all the way around, all morning.
Hats off to everybody that was involved with that. And then, we go through the week and we've got Maundy Thursday, First Communion for some of the youth here, Good Friday, and another big celebration, Easter, which, all the volunteers in the church and stuff, they go all out.
Yeah. It's such a wonderful morning for every reason, from all of the music, all of the volunteers. The choir has to sit through my sermon 3 times, few of you 4 times. And then every person that jumps in for all the services. I mean, it takes so many people, and it's so wonderful, when that brass hits, when we hit the singing, and there is something really that can't be replicated anywhere else on an Easter Sunday morning. It's really cool.
If you haven't been to the 6:30 sunrise service, I would encourage you to check it out because it is different, especially the beginning from the other services. And I have talked to people who come to that one and then come to another one, but there's something very special about that where you start the service in darkness.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that. It's quiet. And there's something really meaningful about that darkness when we, because, it starts at 6:30. It's still pretty dark outside.
Yeah.
And by the time we're done, it's light, so that all of the symbolism of this movement from darkness to light, from death to life, to, from, in our lives, the difficulties or despair to hope. And you get that in that service in a different way than you do in the others. The others have their special place too, but that starting in that darkness, and hearing this Easter declaration of, what happened, why it happened, and there's nothing like it. It's really special. Yeah.
And let's talk about that a little bit. Talk about something that Pastor Bill brought up on Palm Sunday, and that is the importance of Good Friday.
Yeah. That. Well, he made mention, and it's so true. It was always, we had Palm Sunday, and we talked about that, what we call the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. The crowd shouting Hosanna and waving palms and putting their cloaks on the path before Jesus, and then it was a regular thing in our culture. You did Maundy Thursday, you did Good Friday, and then Easter. So you got that whole story, and for so many reasons, it's been more of a challenge, more difficult for a lot of people. To join in those Thursday and Friday worship services. And so you come one Sunday and you hear this great entry, and then you hear, he's risen from the dead, and it's wonderful, which it is, but we miss the story. And there are still those of us who would say, Easter Sunday, the resurrection, is not the center of our Christian faith. Good Friday is. And I know that's a lot to wrap your head around,
Mhm.
Um, but there is no Easter Sunday without what happened on Good Friday and that
Exactly.
whole week. This, I mean, Jesus raised people from the dead. So, um, is it just another? Oh, he got sick, he died. No, it was entirely different than that. And so we have to get in touch with what that is, and we miss that a lot. So along the way, they said, well, let's make Palm Sunday also what we call Sunday of the Passion, and then read the whole Passion story of Jesus' suffering and crucifixion,
Mhm.
so that people do hear the story. And I get that too.
But
All
it's just kinda
yeah,
glossed over, isn't it,
a little
on
bit,
on on Palm Sunday?
yeah, and that's what's hard about it, is because when we when we say, well, it's Palm Sunday, let's do this big parade, have the kids waving the palms, and it's wonderful, but then let's tell the Passion story, and it takes away a little bit from the palms.
Mm.
And although I
This
think
is this is nice.
I know I think we should call this a fern between two dudes, or something like that. I don't know. Different. There's a different show with it,
Right.
but um, but we can't miss the entire story. And I also have seen over the years, um, a reality where part of it is our lives are so incredibly busy. We've got stuff going on.
Mhm.
I mean, my kids live far away, and even when they were in school, um, they live far enough away, so a weekend trip home, even for Easter, was not going to happen,
Okay.
because they go, Friday classes all the way through, start again right away Monday morning. Um, so there's all of these pieces together, but there's another one that I've noticed has just been growing, and um, it's a challenge, because I think part of it, and a big part of it, is we might do the Maundy Thursday thing, especially if we know one of the kids who's going to have First Communion
Mhm.
and whatnot. Um, but I don't want to touch Good Friday.
Mhm. 'Cause it's
It's too
messy,
much.
it's yeah,
It's
powerful and
it's powerful, but it's messy. It feels like a downer. It feels, but it's the truth, and it's this event that happened that we have to reconcile. Just what is that? And it's a lot like so many pieces in our lives. We don't want to touch the really hard stuff.
mm,
It's too difficult.
mhm,
Um, um, but I've also learned personally, and so many other people, when we don't lean into those hard things, face them, name them, admit them, whatever it would be, we don't deal with it,
right,
and it gets we don't understand in its fullness what this renewal, new life, what resurrection really is, and we miss that. And I think that's a difficulty for the church in North America, that we haven't leaned into that Good Friday event like we need to, as hard as it is. I mean, I don't leave feeling joyful and elated, and all of those pieces. But what has happened as you participate in that worship service is that you lean into more of the messiness and the difficulties and the challenges in your own life,
mm,
because you see what Jesus did, what he said, what he endured. Um, and so you leave with maybe not those other things, um, but you leave with a sense of something incredibly meaningful happened.
so much bigger than us, it's something
Yeah.
so much bigger than than our lives
Right.
and what we are going through. But
Yeah.
then when you think about the resurrection,
Yeah.
then you can think about what that means for yourself,
It-
that you can be resurrected and that all that messiness and stuff can be dealt with.
Yes. And
with God's help.
that's it. I mean, the resurrection, new life, life coming out of death. When we get in touch with the crucifixion and Jesus' death, his suffering, all of that gross stuff, it means that much more.
Yeah.
It means that whatever I have in my life, Jesus said, I'm taking that on too. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to be the kind of God or leader or whatever that says, well, you're suffering, deal with it. No, he entered into our stuff in the most, in the deepest kind of way, not just lip service, not just a little bit, everything. And so then that new life says, well, if that can happen, I can be redeemed. I can be made whole. I can be made new in this one who loves me that much.
Right.
So it really is important to this whole story. It's our story.
And the importance of Good Friday.
Yeah.
And if you have never been to the Good Friday Tenebrae service, that is a very special service. And something that I was thinking as you were talking is that it's good to sit in that quiet and to hear those words and to picture, what actually happened. Because when you think of what Jesus went through, it wasn't just, coming before Pilate and walking down the path and there was some brutalness to it.
Yeah, it's way beyond there. The Romans didn't invent crucifixion; it had been around. The Persians used it extensively, and some others did too. But it's the most cruel form of capital punishment that our human minds have concocted.
Yeah,
it's because it's meant to be for a few things, usually reserved for political criminals.
Okay.
Right. So you want to show your political opponents, don't mess with me.
Right.
And so it had to be as public as possible.
Okay.
That's why it was usually on the sides of roads, and it would be sides of roads. Sometimes it would be into the wall of a city, and nail people to the side of the wall.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and much has been said about, okay, how does a person die from crucifixion? And one and there's validity to it. It's a suffocation, because you can't push up with your feet; it hurts. You can't pull up with your hands and your arms because it hurts. And you collapse and suffocate. They've also discovered that the shock to the system of this intense pain, because of nerves that are in the ankles, in the hands and wrists, intense.
Sure.
And so some have conjectured that the main cause of death would be shock from pain.
Sure.
Either way, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Sometimes they would be hanging there for days,
before they would pass.
Wow. And you think of the message and the signal to anyone who would witness this. It was to strike fear and submission into the people. And
so you can imagine what the disciples were also going through.
Yeah, we're next.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
this has been shut down right here, right now.
And we can look back at that and say, wow, they all bailed on him. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
I'd be out of here.
Yeah.
Because it was so terrible. And what Jesus experienced before that was horrendous. One from the crown of thorns, but from what we know of the flogging or scourging, um, terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
Um,
Because weren't they like hooks? Wouldn't
yes,
they would hook
yeah,
into,
yeah. So
and
they'd
then they'd
have
rip the skin
have
off.
a short handle and then leather strands, and at the end they would tie razor sharp metal, broken glass, sharp stones, so that when they would strike a person, those implements would go into the flesh, and then you pull back and it rips it out. So, and it was 39, right? And they made sure to count, because the rule was for the Romans, anyone gives them 40, the one who gave them 40, he gets the next 39.
Oh,
It was, but it was, that was enough that'd be enough to kill people too.
oh yeah.
Just horrendous. So he undergoes all of these things, complete humiliation. Um, and none of it's pleasant. None of this stuff is pleasant at all. And I would agree, we can't spend a whole lot of time there.
Hmm.
When you spend too much time there, it's morose.
Mm,
It's depression. It's all of these things. You can't spend too much time there, but you have to face the reality of it.
right.
And it shows the depth of divine love for us. And so with all of that suffering, again, this I don't want to minimize in the other pieces, but it wasn't, a nice quiet trial. Okay, take him out and shoot him, dead, done.
Yeah.
It wasn't that. It was to inflict as much pain and suffering as possible. And that's what he willingly went to.
Yeah.
And that's where getting in touch with how horrible it was, he knew it was coming. And he did it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, and so we face those things, because then I can look at every challenge that I have, every brokenness that I have, um, and know that that can be overcome too. That the power of Christ through his crucifixion, his resurrection, can overcome those things in my life too. And that's the beauty and the miracle of this, is that Jesus did this willingly. And remember, this is all in the context of betrayal.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, Judas betrays him. One of his closest friends. And our human. I might even share this on Sunday. What's our human tendency when there's been some kind of betrayal in our lives? It's not how Jesus responded. Our
No.
human tendency is to vengeance.
Yep. Get him back.
We can call it justice, but we want vengeance.
Yeah.
Um, he didn't. He forgave. He forgave. And everyone bailed on him, which I would too.
Hmm.
And he still willingly goes forth. And that just, the drama of that whole thing, the story, the entire story, when we're drawn into it, it does this amazing thing for the stuff we have going on in our lives.
Puts it into perspective.
Perspective.
And you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
You know that you're not alone in this
Right.
suffering.
And that's the celebration on Easter Sunday morning, is that this is for me too. Because people are going to come Sunday morning with every brand of brokenness we can imagine, and it'll be there. And I thank God that they're going to be there, because whatever that brokenness is, we need to know we're not alone. Christ in his crucified and resurrected spirit is with us. That we have this whole group of people around us. They're with us.
Yeah.
And this message is that that we can share this incredible love together, and it starts to put the pieces of our brokenness back together. Doesn't mean we won't have the scars, doesn't mean it won't hurt sometimes,
Hmm.
but we're getting put back together. And that's what Easter Sunday is about.
Yeah. And that's why we want you to worship
Yeah.
at all of it.
Yeah.
Worship with us. There's a place for everybody here.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for more information, you can go to our website, allofit.org. We've got all of our Holy Week services listed there, as well as they will be streamed. But if you can make it, if you can come in, come join us.
It's important, and some of it is really hard, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So looking forward to all of the story this week, and then finally with that great celebration, Easter Sunday morning.
All right. Thanks for checking us out.
Yeah, blessings to you all.